Hello, I'm Carrie, and today I want to talk about my pick for the most underrated episode of Degrassi. There are literally hundreds of episodes to choose from, so if you have 1, 2, or even 10, leave your picks or pick for the most underrated episode in the comments below. Now, this episode has been my pick for at least a decade now. It's the TNG Season 2 episode, Mirror in the Bathroom. There's a video where I talk about Degrassi Next Class covering Esme Song's mental illness over the course of 4 seasons, and how sometimes as fans we get this tunnel vision on the visible topics that are happening on Degrassi, and sometimes we become so hyper-focused on those that the show's deeper, unspoken themes can kind of go overlooked, and I feel like this episode is a prime example of that. If you ask anybody about this episode, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, this is that episode about Toby and his eating disorder. And while his eating disorder is a serious issue if we're breaking down the episode, it's not really the point of the episode. This is one of those episodes where whatever is happening to the character is a catalyst to highlight an even bigger, deeper life issue that all of us can relate to. And the great thing about this episode is that Terri's B-plot also covers a very important theme that goes hand in hand with the theme from Toby's plot. Toby's is all about human beings and their willingness to do whatever it takes for acceptance. And at the same time, Terri's plot covers our overwhelming fear of rejection. From a psychological standpoint, the desire for acceptance and our fear of rejection are two of the biggest motivators of human behavior. In Toby's plot, we see the difference between how people react to his computer programming team's accomplishment at regionals versus how everyone is extra hyped when Sean is just simply named Degrassi Sports MVP of the month. That's why we see Toby trying out for the wrestling team to essentially become someone who's popular and someone who gets noticed. And that's also why we see him engage in the dangerous behavior of making weight. In his specific case, it's a tactic for him to stay in a lower weight class so that he doesn't have to compete against people like Sean, leaving him to compete against weaker competition that he can actually beat. That way, he can actually stay on the team and continue to have that popularity and wear that wrestling jacket as a badge of honor. However, everything comes to a head when Toby has to maintain his dangerous eating habit in order to stay right where he is on the wrestling team. And that put him in a very dangerous position because he was just looking for that instant gratification, wanting to be popular right now, as opposed to putting in the work and doing things the right way in order to become as good at wrestling as he is at computer programming. But when you think about it from Toby's point of view, this is somebody who feels like they're invisible, even when they're doing great things. And society and even his own classmates have made it very clear to him that he's really not all that important. And that's really all he wants, is to just feel important for once. And while Toby wants to be noticed, when it comes to Terri, she actually wants to be invisible. Her storyline is all about her becoming a model, and she got paid hundreds of dollars for a photo shoot, but she's embarrassed because the picture she took ended up being used for a plus-sized clothing campaign. And of course, they've got the antagonist, Muhammad, who makes fun of her weight throughout the episode, which hits her right in her biggest insecurity, which has always been her weight. If you look at some of the key moments in Terri's existence on the show, in season 1, you had Eye of the Beholder, where she got drunk in order to feel a little more confident about herself. And then we have this episode here, and then her being in and staying in a relationship with Rick Murray was based around her insecurities and the fact that she feels like no one likes her because of her size. Mirror in the Bathroom is one of those episodes that, for the most part, has gotten from a majority of the fan base over the years. But for me, this episode is a hidden gem thematically, and it's one of the reasons why I started looking at Degrassi from a more in-depth perspective. The stories for both plots are around the topic of the character's weight, but when you're looking at the characters and what they're doing on the show, the most important question that you have to ask yourself is why? Why are they doing what they're doing? And the answer to that why, in regards to both Toby and Terri's plot in Mirror in the Bathroom, makes this episode easily one of the most relatable episodes in the history of the show when it comes to human behavior. And that's going to do it for this video. I want to hear what your pick for the most underrated episode of Degrassi is. Leave that in the comments section below. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to Degrassi Corner for the latest Degrassi news and more.